Okay, all right, there we go. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Trade Accelerator Program info session. I'll apologize up front because I have two computers here, so you're going to see me kind of looking over here and looking over here, but you can be sure I am giving you my full attention right now. I'm Patrick Sullivan, President and CEO of the Halifax Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to start by thanking our program partners at Nova Scotia Business Inc., who we'll be talking a lot more about soon. And our national partners at Air Canada Cargo, BDC, EDC, and RBC. Lots of C's. We're so glad you could join us, and we're excited to answer any questions you may have on this program. Our next cohort will be running from January until March of 2021. So today is a great opportunity to ask your questions and get started on your application. We knew this program will be as beneficial to you and your business as it has been for many other businesses that have already been through it. Please type your questions in the chat box and our presenter will answer them as time allows. I'll probably pose them as we go along. There's also a Q&A function, so you can click on the Q&A as well if you'd like to ask your questions there. I would encourage you when you do post on the chat function to address your questions to panelists and all attendees. I'm just checking to make sure that's what it says. Yeah. So that everyone can see your questions, because if you have a question, other folks may be interested in those questions as well. And now let's get on to the good stuff. It's now my pleasure to introduce Jessica McCall, Export Development Executive with Nova Scotia Business Inc. Over to you, Jessica.
Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to have you here and to be able to talk about the Trade Accelerator Program. This is a program that I've seen a lot of value for our companies, and they've really been able to dig into export more deeply and have a strategic plan to really execute. So I'm just going to share my screen and get started. Nova Scotia Business Inc. is a crown corporation in Nova Scotia, and is led by a private sector board. So we are very much about business for business, even though we're technically government. We're probably one of the least government-y organizations that you're gonna end up dealing with. So I will tell you, it's a great pleasure to be able to work with companies every day. That's one of the fun things that I get to do, is help companies along their journey of export, whether they're just learning about export from the very beginning or whether they've been exporting for many years and are looking to double down in a new country or launching a new product. So that's the fun thing that I get to do every day. And it always is both amazing and wonderful to me to see the ingenuity and the exuberance and the real dedication that Nova Scotia business owners have to building the province and building their companies through export. So it's a fun thing for me. So today we're going to talk.
All right, Jessica, I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second, and that is to say that on your screen it's kind of got that, the look where we can kind of see two slides. You may want to hit display settings and then go, if you can, and then swap presenter view.
Yes,
and
there we go.
There we go.
Thank you. So thanks for that, Patrick. We wouldn't want you reading ahead. You'll get distracted. So what we're going to talk about is the TAP program, the Trade Accelerator Program. And what is it? So TAP was created in about 2015 by the Board of Trade in Toronto. And it's an export-focused trading program that's very interactive. They're typically done face-to-face over 4 days of face-to-face content over a couple of weeks. And with the onset of COVID, the whole program is flipped to be a virtual digital version. And I'm kind of actually loving the digital version, I'll tell you. We've done it both ways here in Nova Scotia. And the digital version is stretched over sort of 5 weeks of content, and then a couple of weeks focused on the export plan, and then the mentoring components, and we'll get to all of that. But the important thing to know about the TAP program is the support and guidance that is there for you throughout the program are really key. This isn't something where you kind of listen to a webinar and hear some content and then are on your own to develop your plan. It really is a program that's designed to support you. From the very beginning, there are mentors involved every single day. I'm one of them, that I'm there for every single component. And then we have other mentors that are experts in various areas that join, and they're there to support you through the program. And the other thing that I think is really great about the TAP program, differently than hiring a consultant to do some of this work for you and write an export plan for you and your business, you and your team are going to write this plan. And it's going to include a lot of action steps and real strategy that you're going to use to execute the program. And what I think is really key about that is I could write a business plan for you. I could write an export plan for you to help you launch in a new market, and it would be useful. But there's nothing like you having the document that you write, that you put your flavor and intention into. You know your business better than anyone, and it's important for you to understand that what you put into this program, you will get out of it. And so definitely you and your plan you and your team writing the export plan is a huge part of the success of the TAP program and the success we see with the companies. So why does it matter? I think it's interesting to think about export, particularly in terms of COVID right now, where we're not traveling, we're not going to trade shows, we're not building our businesses in the way that we used to. But export is incredibly important to the province of Nova Scotia and to the country of Canada. We have just under 1 million people here in Nova Scotia, just over 37 million people across the country. And just to give you a sense of scale, California has almost 40 million people. So one of the reasons why export is so critical to Nova Scotia and to Canada is that we just don't have enough people to sell enough product to make kind of the business engine run if we only sold internally within the province or within the country. And so exporting your product or service around the world really increases the innovation that you have in your business, and it helps us focus on value-added production. Here in Nova Scotia, we have a lot of natural resources, and we have historically very much focused on things like forestry and seafood, etc. And we're seeing evolutions now into more value-added wood product. We still have traditional forestry, we still have traditional fishery, but we're seeing a lot of value-added production. So we're not just doing lobster, we're doing lobster that's been treated or frozen or turned into kind of lobster chow mein rather than just straight lobster, although luxury product like lobster still is a huge driver of the Nova Scotia economy. The other thing that export really brings to your company is it helps it grow. We have clear research and statistics across both within the TAP cohort, and we'll get to that in a moment, but also just writ large across the country. Companies that export grow much faster and are much more sticky and have a much more solid foundation to build from. And one of the things they build as they start to grow is jobs. And we know here in the province of Nova Scotia, the more job creation we can have, the more retention we'll have of our university grads and other Nova Scotians, and we'll also be able to attract new people to the province. So the number of immigrants that are coming and starting business or joining businesses is a huge piece of why Nova Scotia's had success over the past few years. And it's what's going to keep us going. And so export is a critical thing to our province, and it's a key component of why TAP exists. What we see with the TAP companies that have participated, and I think we're around 1,000 companies now have gone through the TAP program successfully and completed their export plans. Usually what we're seeing is through the statistics that come out of the surveys that are done every year is about 33% of the companies are showing, average growth of the companies is around 33% in their export sales 1 year after completing TAP. And these companies are reaching out to more than our sort of traditional markets of just the US. We've got companies exporting to India, Mexico, Japan, Sweden, you name it. We have companies, TAP companies across the country that are participating in export. And more than 71% of the companies in TAP that have completed the program are exporting. Some of them were doing some export before they joined and it's expanded. Others were brand new to export and it's now become a key part of their business. And one of the, I think the most important things that TAP brings to companies is the fact that it builds confidence. 90% of the companies that went through the TAP program felt that they were better able to do business internationally when they were finished. And that is a key component of the program. It really, business confidence and understanding that you have what it takes and you understand the complications is critical, because export has a lot of complications. There are hurdles that you're going to need to jump over. And I'm the export cheerleader, right? This is my jam. But I'm telling you, it's not easy and it requires you to be really dedicated. And so some of the hurdles that you face with export are increased costs, logistic challenges of getting your product from A to B, the logistics challenges of having your staff work in other countries and dealing with immigration issues, looking at legal, regulatory compliance, making sure you get paid. These are all key components of what is happening in in your company as you grow into export. You need to manage all of these issues, looking at language and cultural differences, understanding how your competition works and how you're going to be different. What are you going to do to differentiate your company against the competition in that new market that you're looking at? So these are all key factors with export, and you really need to be prepared to manage them. Country risk is an interesting one. When I used to give presentations around export years ago, it was before Trump had won the election in the US. And typically the US is not a country where we talk about a ton of country risk. But with Trump coming in and we, you can see the impacts of our biggest trading partner. More than $2 billion of goods and services go between the US and Canada every single day. And that's 2 billion with a B across the border every single day. They're our biggest trading partner. And yet now through the last presidential cycle, we've had a ton of country risk with the US. And so it's interesting to see, country risk is something we thought about typically in other markets, and now it's happening with our largest trading partner. So these are hurdles that you need to manage. And so the TAP program is designed to teach you to do exactly what you need to do to manage these risks for your particular business. The topics that we cover in TAP start with strategic planning. And this is where you sort of get some sense of why the export plan is useful and how you're going to use this export plan as a tool with your business. It also walks you through a business model canvas, where we talk about all of the different components of your business. So you get to dig into your business and your particular product or service that you want to focus on and the market you want to focus on right in day one. We're looking at all the different components of your business that need to change or evolve to manage this new export venture that you're going to be writing the plan for. Then the next day we move into support and advisory services. So this is your cheerleading squad. These are all the government organizations and other partners that have programs or services, some of them with cash money in hand, to help you export. With the onset of COVID-19, we're not traveling the way we used to. So one of the key sales components of many businesses is going to trade shows and conferences. And a lot of those have moved to virtual now. And so some of the programming is evolving and moving to virtual now. And there's a lot of programs now with the federal government and the provincial government to support development of e-commerce and using e-commerce as a tool. And so that's one of the topics that we cover in TAP Digital that we didn't cover in the face-to-face version. I think it's a really key component that companies that can grow through online sales and e-commerce, it's a huge part of how they're going to evolve. Then those two sessions, strategic planning and support and advisory, those are both half-day sessions in week 1. We move to week 2 and look at legal and tax. And this is a chewy day, I'll tell you. It is a morning where you go through the sort of legal implications of export, both immigration, sort of business legal, looking at the ramifications of selling into other markets or having staff in other markets, hiring people in other markets, as well as the tax implications of working in those different markets. And so those are really great resources, and you learn a lot in that session for sure. And I will tell you, honestly, what you learn is a lot of questions that you need to get answers for. We don't know every product or country that we're going to be dealing with. And so these tax and legal presentations are really focused on the questions that you need to start asking and get answers for. Then we move to week 3 and we cover international finance. Again, this is, we get a great presentation from a couple of them from RBC and EDC talking about managing your money in an international market and how you can best protect yourself about getting paid, protect yourselves against currency fluctuations. This is another chewy day. Then we move into the next week where we talk about building capacity within your organization. And what we mean by that is, how is your business going to change internally to take on this new challenge of export? And so if you're a manufacturing business, a lot of this is focused around being more efficient in your production. What does your manufacturing line look like? Where are the places you can shave off even tiny percentages of waste or lost time to make you more lean and more efficient? The more efficient you are as an organization, the better you're going to be able to drive all of that revenue to the bottom line. The other thing we cover that day is supply chain management. And it's certainly one of the places where businesses can really make a lot of mistakes when they're starting to export, and also where you can lose a lot of your margin. So understanding the logistics arrangements for your particular product going into that market is really key. And if you're a service-based business, there's still a lot of supply chain things you can think about, because supply chain isn't just moving your product from A to B. Supply chain is everything within your organization that allows you to deliver the product or service that you deliver, including the logistics piece of delivering that. And so a lot of people now are doing their services online rather than sending teams face-to-face to deliver their service. They're actually doing their services online. And so technologies have become a key piece of supply chain management when we're talking about delivering things like training and other things to export clients. And the last 2 days are together. So the first week starts with 2 days in 1 week, and the last week is 2 days in 1 week. And those are both focused on sales and marketing. And we're talking about international sales and marketing. And so we're really talking about integrating all of those components into a strategy that may look very different than your domestic strategy of what you do for your sales and marketing now. So each of the weeks that we're there, so this is 5 weeks of content, each week you're going to have some homework. And so after the first week where you cover strategic planning and support and advisory, we're going to go through on this afternoon or the end of the second day. I'll work with you on what is required to go in that first week's homework. And so the whole export plan is broken into kind of sizable chunks that you can actually work through, and they're all themed based on the content we would have covered that week. And so the idea is the template is there for you with a lot of topics and things that you should be thinking about, and then you're replacing that with your answers and your content. The plan is that each week over the 5 weeks, you'll have written components of the entire export plan. And then we give you about a week at the end to kind of synthesize that together into the final draft. And that final draft is what gets assessed by the mentors. And so most of the facilitators that you'll see speak to you over the 5 weeks, including myself, we are the people who will then end up reviewing your plan and giving you written feedback on it. And so you'll get a synthesized sort of feedback report on the plan, and it'll outline the places where we think you have further questions to get answers to. We'll give you feedback on whether we think the strategy is sound, other ideas on what we think you should be adding, ideas you might not have thought of. And so you deliver the export plan. As I said, you've got about a week to finish it. You submit it. It takes 2 weeks for the mentors to go through all of the plans. And then you get that feedback back, and you have a chance to review it before you have one-on-one meetings with those mentors. And so when I talked about, let's say, the legal or tax implications, you'll have a chance to sit down for 30 minutes virtually now. It used to be face-to-face, but with COVID, it's virtual. For you to sit down for 30 minutes with that tax professional, with that legal team, to really talk about what is impacting your business specifically and ask really direct questions. Some of those questions may come out of the feedback that they provided on your plan, and some of them may be things that you've been percolating on throughout the whole TAP program that you really just want to get details on. And so now that we've got to this part, I think one of the things to think about is TAP for you right now? And maybe TAP is for you, but maybe not right now. Maybe TAP is for you, immediately. We have a class, as Patrick said, starting in January, and we're accepting applications now. I think it's important to think about the time that you're going to need to dedicate to this. And so if you decide for some reason that right now isn't the perfect time for you for TAP, for whatever reason, I don't want you to think, oh, well, I was here this morning and I wasted my time. We have a ton of programs to support you in other areas of your export journey. So maybe not writing your full export plan now, but maybe learning about some of the things that you can do to start the baby steps for export. Or maybe if you're already exporting and you just need some resources and support on that journey already, but you don't necessarily have the time right now in January to commit to kind of stepping into this program and completing the homework components and writing your plan. NSBI, that's the organization I'm with, certainly has a ton of support, and we have a team that works focused on export, as well as our regional business development team that are actually represented from one end of the province to the other. And so we service all of Nova Scotia with our programming and our support services, advisory services. And I definitely recommend that you check out the NSBI website. And if you're not sure who your NSBI person is, I can guarantee you, if you're a business owner in Nova Scotia, you have a person. They're separated by county. If you're not sure who your person is, definitely pop in the chat or in the Q&A where your business is located, in the name of your business, and I will make sure that we connect with you and get you your person's name and make an introduction so you can start. They're really the first point of contact for anyone with NSBI. And then from that NSBI point, we could then connect you with staff at ACOA, staff at Global Affairs, staff at other support organizations within the province or outside the province that are there for you to help on your journey of growing your business in one way or the other. So the lift for your company with TAP is that we need two senior staff from your company to participate. Very often it's the CEO and someone else, or two senior kind of C-suite people that come. We have had a couple of businesses where they've only had one representative to be able to participate for various reasons. And so we typically walk through that on a case-by-case basis and talk about the impact of having the one person. We kind of like having two brains. It gives two of you there to think about the content. You both kind of absorb the content differently. Often you've got two different areas of focus within the business. So we end up having someone who's really focused on, let's say, sales and marketing, and then the CEO, or someone who's focused really on the production side of the business and really understanding the impact having an export journey will have on the production side, as well as maybe someone on finance. So we get a different mix from each company, but typically we look for two senior representatives to participate in all of the aspects of the program. We've got a company we're doing a TAP cohort right now, and one of the companies actually has 4 staff that are participating, which we can do certainly much more easily where it's digital. 2 of the staff are participating in every single part of the program as they need to, and then the other 2 staff are joining for components that really drive to their particular area of focus within the business, and that's working really well for them. So you need to come to all of the 7 half-day sessions of the program over those 5 weeks. You need to complete the export plan during that sort of final week after you've sort of synthesized all your homework together, prior to your one-on-one meetings with your mentors. And then twice a year, ISED, the Federal Government Department, Innovation, Science and Economic Development, that funds this program, which we'll talk about them a little bit more in a minute, they have surveys that we share through TAP head office. And it really tracks what you're doing in export. It tracks what you're happening with your company. How many new countries are you in? Have you hired new staff? And those surveys really allow us to be able to measure the impact TAP is having. And so the stats that I gave you earlier, about 71% of TAP companies are exporting now to multiple countries. That, you know, exports have grown by 33% after the first year of finishing the TAP program. Those stats are coming out of these surveys. So it's really critical that those surveys are completed a couple times a year. So the eligibility criteria. One of the things with export is I have some very little sole proprietor, one-person teams with maybe some part-time production support, and they're exporting. So exporting is possible regardless of how big you are. But one of the things that we're seeing in companies is that the sort of financial wherewithal you have at one point to sort of engage in TAP and be able to put the time and energy into writing the export plan yourself really means that the company has to be of a certain size to be truly able to dig into TAP in the way that it's designed. And so typically we're looking at 500K plus in revenue annually. So, you know, if you're at 455, please reach out. That's a conversation we're happy to have. You know, if you're around the $100,000 range and you still are very interested in export, this is the moment to reach out to our team at NSBI. There are a lot of things we can do outside of TAP, and the goal would be over the next 2 years, we grow you to the size that then maybe in, you know, 2022, you're in the TAP program, or 2023, you're part of the TAP program and become TAP alumni. You don't already have to be exporting to be in the TAP program. It could be something that's totally new to your company. So we typically have sort of 3 paths. One is you're not exporting at all, but you've been starting to think about it and you see the benefit for your business and you want to kind of explore that deeper and really write your plan and make that an active part of your business. That you're already exporting, but you want to kind of increase. So maybe you're exporting to New England, but you want to hit more of the US. Or company is already exporting, but they're looking at maybe been exporting to North America, you know, stably for a few years, and you're looking to add on a European country because of the Canadian Trade Agreement, the CETA agreement with Europe, and so other things. Or maybe you're looking at Asia now. So really, any sort of export status is okay with us. Granted, if you've not done any export before, you're going to really want to double down and make sure you're thinking. We'll send you some resources ahead of time once you've signed up to sort of start reading. The Global Affairs Canada has written the step-by-step guide to exporting. It's quite thick, but it has really good information to kind of get your brain thinking and moving in that direction. We really need you to have a defined product or service. And so this one is about you communicating to us what it is your company does, and what your company, your product or service is, and how you see that playing in an export market. We'd like to see 2 years. We don't actually need to see the records, but we need to see the data. So we typically look at your revenues over a few years. We look at whether or not you have any export revenue, and how many staff you have, and whether that's stable or growing, or what's occurring with your staff complement. And then we want kind of good companies. So good corporate social responsibility. We want to have our strong Nova Scotia companies that are looking at export be part of this cohort, because we know through the 1,000 companies that have gone through TAP across the whole country that TAP is a game changer for companies, and we want to have our best companies moving forward in export. The program fee, the cost of TAP, if the government was not involved and our sponsors were involved, it's around $5,000 per company. However, because I said the Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, which is a federal government department, and our sponsors, which I'm going to show you a little bit more about in a moment, because of their involvement in the program, the cost is reduced. And this is not just Nova Scotia, but across the country. ISED supports this program. The cost for you as a business in Nova Scotia is $4.99 plus HST. And so most companies can absorb that financial lift. I would say when you're sort of evaluating, is TAP a good fit for you? Right now, it's really more about the time and energy put into TAP, because you know, you don't do your homework. It doesn't change my life a whole lot, but you're really going to have a kind of a crappy last week of trying to write an entire export plan and synthesize all that information in that last week that we give you to kind of pull it all together. So really, the financial lift to you is not significant. $4.99 plus HST is not a huge lift for this amount of content and support, but it is a requirement that if you're going to participate in TAP, you participate fully. And so that means attending all of the sessions. It means writing the export plan and submitting it. It means participating in the one-on-one mentoring meetings that are a fit for you. And so this is the carrot and stick moment. The carrot is all of this data that we have from our TAP program, some of which we've already shown you, is that this is good for your company, and you will grow your company if you implement the plan that you write during the TAP program and really focus on export as a significant part of your business. The stick part is if you don't do the components of the plan, that you are liable for the full $5,000 charge. Now, most of our companies, and COVID certainly has added some complexity to this. And so we have had a couple companies that because of COVID, they've not been able to complete right now. And so that's okay, because COVID has certainly changed everyone's business. But the sort of standard practice is if you're not able to complete, that you are on the hook, we'll say, for the full program cost. Because the goal of the program, both from ISED and the sponsors and the Halifax Chamber, who is our partners in crime on this, with NSBI, that our goal is to have you exporting and growing your business. And so that's a key component. Here are the dates for winter. We'll be able to send you with this information, and they are available online as well. But as you can see, Monday, Tuesday, the first week, 2 mornings, they're 9 to 1 sessions. Sometimes we're done around 12:30 some days, but I would definitely kind of put in your calendar 9 to 1 on these days. So Monday, Tuesday, the first week, then you would work on your homework over that intervening week. Then Tuesday, the next week, we do tax and legal. Then again, your tax and legal homework. Come back the next Tuesday for international finance. Again, homework components, building capacity, again on Tuesday the 9th. Then sales and marketing, again, is 2 days back to back. And so they're Tuesday, Wednesday that particular week, because Monday's a holiday that week. And so then your export plan will be due February 28th. And so you get a bit of time, as you can see, between February 17th, the last day of session, to the 28th to finalize your plan and get all of the components pulled into one final plan. And then between March 1st and March 12th, all the mentors, myself included, work on reviewing all your plans and giving you written feedback. And then March break is that next week in Nova Scotia. So we've pushed the mentoring week back with the perhaps high hopes that March break will be a normal March break. I don't know that it will be, but we've pushed mentoring back at least so that if nothing else, you're not home with your kids that week trying to do mentoring. And so that's the schedule for the winter dates. These are the sponsors. So these are some of the organizations that are speaking and mentoring through the TAP program. And I've worked with every one of these companies, and they're amazing, and they really add value to the content that you're seeing. And they've really taken the content and made it, you know, in many ways specific to our Nova Scotia companies. And these are some of the sponsors, as well as our national sponsors of RBC, EDC, Air Canada Cargo, and BDC, and that is a lot of initials. As well as the program creators, which was the Toronto Regional Board of Trade and the World Trade Center in Toronto. And so essentially that's the TAP program. We can cover it pretty quickly going through the slide decks like this, but it is a big lift for companies. And I see that we have a few questions. So Patrick, I don't know if we want to hop to the questions. I'll stop sharing here. And
I don't see any questions yet, Jessica, but I have questions.
Awesome.
Yes. So,
lay it on me.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, just to encourage folks, there is the chat function and there's the Q&A, so you can certainly ask questions there. Just a general question. Is a pandemic the best time to start exporting?
So it's interesting. We have seen some businesses actually growing rapidly during COVID because they've been able to supply something that's needed. We've seen some businesses pivot their production. So early on, we saw a lot of alcoholic beverage companies, distilleries in particular, pivoting and creating whole new products and hand sanitizer and shipping those all over the place. So I don't think it's not a good time to do it. And one of the things that we're seeing in some businesses is if sales are down or if you're sort of contracting slightly, it's a good time that staff may have a bit more available time to sort of dig into this. And the other thing that I'll say is some sectors have been very badly hit. So tourism, clearly, travel has been significantly impacted, but many other businesses are moving on, I won't say as normal, because some staff are working from home, or some staff are working in shifts now, or your physical distancing is changing some of your manufacturing line, but a lot of businesses are still moving as normal or as normal as they can be. And so it is a good time for you to dig in and write this plan. We had companies that were in the middle of the TAP program when the pandemic hit. And so they did the first bunch of the program face-to-face, and we did the last sections of the program virtually. And they had written their plans, and then we sort of put a bit of a pause to figure out when COVID first hit. And so some of the companies were adapting their action plans or the steps they were going to take to sort of take advantage of the fact that, you know, COVID had occurred and it was going to change their timeline a little. And others were just moving forward as if COVID wasn't there and they were able to do so. So I think it's something to certainly factor in, but it isn't, business is happening all over the world. We're also going to the grocery store. We're still engaging with content online. Business is moving still at the pace of business. And so what's happening is all of those sales opportunities internationally, like trade shows or conferences, have all pivoted to virtual. So we have sales teams that are actually needing to work harder and have more input and more lead time to actually complete the international sales that they might have been doing normally when they went face-to-face to a show. They're now doing it virtually, and it's different, but it's still working and business is still occurring. So it's not a bad time. And some companies have a little bit more breathing room that they could devote the time and energy required to write the plan. It doesn't mean you need to execute it the day you write the plan. The day the plan is finished doesn't mean you need to hit the ground running. It could be that it's got an 18-month window. And part of what you realize in your plan is the regulatory compliance or the legal framework that you need to have inside your business and that you need to have ready to go, and an understanding of that market that you're looking to sell into. That might take you 6 or 8 months to kind of do some of that legwork, kind of on the side of your desk until you're ready to go. And so there isn't an expectation that the day TAP finishes and you get your final mentor meeting that we're going to call you in like 3 weeks and go, so have you sold stuff in that market you were talking about already? Part of this writing the plan and the action steps is looking at the short term, looking at the medium term, and looking at the long term of how export's going to impact your business. And so it's certainly a good time to do it now.
Okay. A question from our folks in the audience. Is it natural to think, and I'm kind of paraphrasing the question a little bit, that you should move to another province in Canada first before you should export to other markets? And if other areas in Canada are a good idea, are there programs or supports for other areas of Canada versus international?
And yes, there is. And it certainly might be a natural thing for you to look at exporting to another Canadian province first. There are cousins. And so that's how I think about all the provinces. There are cousins. And so it certainly is an opportunity that you can look at selling across Canada. That changes some of your regulatory compliance, so you're not crossing the border and entering a new country. However, depending on what your product or your service is, there are still significant regulatory, hurdles. For example, in this current cohort, we have 2 breweries. And so those 2 breweries, it's essentially just as easy for them to sell into New England as it is for them to sell into BC or Ontario. And so for some of our companies, I've got someone who's a landscape architect I'm working with on another project. And for her, the sort of the regulations around where she's allowed to work and where she's not, some of that changes province by province or country by country. So depending on what it is you do for a living, there may be just as much barrier or just as much ease of going to another country as there is going to another province. So certainly exporting across Canada is 100% a valuable option. This program is funded through the federal government, and so the definition of export for TAP is something being sold outside of Canada. NSBI's definition is anything sold outside of Nova Scotia, because we're the provincial economic development arm of the government, and so our definition is provincial and not federal. So to the question about supports and programs, any program that NSBI offers, you are able to sell across the country, and there's certainly supports and programs, and most of our programming applies to you, whether you're going to sell to Brazil or whether you're going to sell to Manitoba. So definitely reach out. There are programs that are tailored, as I said, specifically federal programs that are tailored for sales outside the country, and then NSBI's programs, because we're provincially focused, are for outside the province. So yeah, happy to have a larger chat about that, kind of offline with our regional business development team and your business to help you understand kind of how to make that choice.
Okay. There are folks that would say that my business already exports. So if I'm already exporting to the US, what potential opportunities or benefits would TAP provide?
Well, in some ways, exporting to the US, because they're our biggest trading partner and it's sort of a traditional market for us, it's a natural place to go. Geography-wise, it's particularly if you're looking at New England as your sort of area of the U.S., it's certainly a natural place to go. But one of the things I will say is there are trade agreements now with many other areas of the world. So we have CETA, the trade agreement that we have with the European Union, and we also have the CPTPP, which is the new version, the sort of ratified version of what was the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And so that's dealing with sort of Pacific Rim countries, South Korea, Japan, as well as countries in Mexico and South America. So there are opportunities in many other countries, and for you to understand what the ramifications are of exporting to another market, one of the best parts about having market diversification, that's kind of what we call it, is that you're not stuck with only one market. You don't have all your eggs in that one basket. And so we can see with organizations that were selling into the US traditionally, particularly during the last 4 years, where there's been some significant fluctuations in the international trade approach of the US government, if that was politically savvy enough to say.
Very tactful, yes.
It's been a hot mess, kids.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what we're seeing is, even things like taxes on aluminum has greatly affected the brewing industry or other canning industries. And so there's been implications of having all your eggs in one basket. And so what I say is any company that's already exporting outside of Canada, the benefit of TAP is being able to maybe look at a new market in a whole new way. And so you'll have some sort of street smarts of having done export in the US. You understand their regulatory things. You understand potentially managing currency fluctuation. But what you can do with this export plan is it really gives you the time and energy to focus on, let's say, maybe the market South Korea that you're interested in next, or maybe it's the Netherlands. And so for you to really understand all of the new ramifications of that new country, you have time, and we focus you on during the TAP program, you writing the export plan specifically to that country. And here's what I can tell you. If you take smart Nova Scotia business people and you show them and demonstrate the opportunity that comes with export, it is a lot of work, but it's a lot of opportunity. they will move forward. And once they have a written plan and understand all the sort of the to-do list that they need to go through to really maximize their opportunity in that market and understand all those legal and sort of regulatory compliance and accounting issues, once you do write that plan for that new market, companies move on it. And the demographics of selling into Europe or selling into Asia or one of the other CPTPP countries, the demographics of those countries is huge, and being able to sort of get a beachhead in one country in Europe means you can then spread and grow in those markets. So if you're already exporting, that's great, but you certainly can look at other markets as opportunities for you to grow.
Okay, and I just posted a link to the Contact Us page at NSBI, so that, because I think it breaks out Rob and Lisa, who would be the local contacts in the greater Halifax area, right?
Yes.
Depending on exactly where you are. So
Yeah.
you can reach out to those folks and tell them Jessica sent you.
Absolutely.
So a couple of quick questions for you here. Do you have to be a chamber member? I think the answer is no, right? You don't have to be a chamber member.
The answer is no. This is eligible to any Nova Scotia business from one end of the province to the other. And we have had companies from literally Sydney to Shelburne.
Right. Okay, perfect. What if my competitors are in the program as well?
So we have had situations, like I said, this time there are 2 breweries in this particular cohort. And so what we do is part of it, of the program, is you hearing content from all of the experts. But the other parts of the program are where you're actually working through challenges. So some of them we put you together with just your team in a breakout room in Zoom. So it's just you and your staff in that room. And so you can have kind of private conversations. The other parts are workshops where you might be mixed up with the various groups of different people. And so we can actually sort of endeavor to keep, let's say it's the 2 breweries, we can keep the 2 breweries apart in different breakout rooms so they're not overlapping. One thing I have seen, and we have had this sort of multiple versions of a particular kind of sector showing up, is most people across Nova Scotia know the other players in their sector. And for the most part, everybody gets along, and there's a lot of opportunity for collaboration, even though competition is inherent in the equation. We had 2 engineering firms in the first cohort, so it's something we certainly can have a conversation with you about. If that sort of appears in your cohort, let's say it's 2 breweries again, we can have a conversation about how you feel comfortable with that. A lot of the workshop questions are like, we pose the question, you're a company, this is the scenario, how would you respond, or what do you think you should do? So they're not really about your business. The parts that are really about your business, you're working on just with your team or with one of the mentors. We certainly talk about challenges that we have in our businesses throughout the program or things we run into, but that's a moment of you being able to kind of express as much sort of confidential information as you'd like, but we're happy to have a conversation with you if that's something that you're concerned about.
Okay. I think that one of the things, having attended a whole lot of the sessions, I think one of the things that I really love about the sessions are that they really help you to think about your business. They really help you to kind of get to, what is my core competency? What am I really trying to accomplish? What's my difference? What's my, what's the book, what's your why? What makes my business special or unique? It really does help you to get to, this is what makes my business special and unique. This is why I'm going to be the one to kind of break through in Belgium or in the UK or in China or in the United States or wherever it happens to be versus other companies. So I wanted to clarify as well, and I think you had said, Jessica, you were kind of talking when you were talking about days. You said it's this many days, it's that many days. It is a little different in the virtual component. So it's kind of half days.
Yeah, they're 9 to 1 on each of the 7 days of the series.
Yeah.
They happen over 5 weeks because 2 of the weeks you've got 2 days, and so they are 9 to 1. Some days we're out at 12:30. I will tell you, but I generally like to say 9 to 1 because depending on the number of companies in the cohort and how juicy the conversation gets, sometimes we run a little bit long, but we're always done by 1. For sure, we sort of make that kind of a hard and fast rule because everyone has business to get back to and lives to get back to, but they are between 9 and 1 via Zoom over those 5 weeks.
Okay. And we are doing cohorts in the spring. I mean, I don't want people to defer. I want them to get into it early, but we're doing cohorts again, likely in the fall as well, right?
Yes, I would say there'll be one in the spring and probably one in the fall. Again, COVID is impacting sort of what's happening and how things are moving.
Yeah.
But as I said, I'm kind of a fan of the digital version that we've done. Not that I
Yeah.
don't want to see people, because I really want to see people. Um, it's been 8 months now. I'm getting a little squirrely, but I think the digital version is really allowing companies to kind of take bite-sized chunks of their export plan, and spreading it over a little bit more time is giving them a chance to kind of absorb with all of the other things that are happening. And for those of you who've been doing any other kind of Zoom training, this is very interactive. So the format that we have this morning is we're running this Zoom as a webinar. And so we don't use this format for TAP. We actually run it where everyone has their cameras on. We don't want you to turn your camera off. We want you to unmute and throw your 2 cents in the middle. There's lots of time where we're having interactive conversations amongst the whole group, or we break you into smaller breakout rooms and there's conversation happening with 3 or 4 people in one room at a time. So it is pretty lively. It's getting to be, people are getting better at being on Zoom and kind of not being weirded out by being on camera. And it's becoming a little bit secondhand. So I think we're really getting great engagement, and that's one thing I'm happy to see. Because it isn't like this format where I can't see any of your faces. We're able to see what's happening in the TAP format, and we're really wanting you to unmute and engage and answer questions and put your hand up and say, wait, I don't get that. That doesn't resonate for me. We want that kind of engagement. So it is a different experience, because I know 9 to 1 is a long period of time to be on a Zoom, but it is very interactive.
Yeah, I mean, the way I phrased this when we first kind of pitched this to people, you know, even a year and a half ago or whenever we started this whole program, was I kind of saw this as a bit of an executive MBA. I mean, it's really an executive MBA in exporting. Because although it may be 7 days or 7, you know, almost half days, that kind of thing, it's really intense. I mean, the average presentation is about 20 minutes. So you're not going to be bored. You're not going to be listening to Jessica and I drone on for an hour. You're going to be listening to somebody for 20 minutes, and then you're going to be having conversations about that 20-minute presentation. So it's really intense, which is what I really like.
Yeah, it's definitely something where I'll tell you, you don't want to have the other screen open answering email. I mean, I know business has to kind of move forward, and we have had people had to drop off and take a 20-minute call and come back. But that's the other benefit of having 2 staff on, right? So if one of you has to do something, because that's when it has to happen, but it's certainly something where we need you focused and engaged, because it does move very fast. I think I want to say there's 33 presenters over those half-day sessions. Like, it's a lot of content. Yeah. We do provide you with all the slide decks. We provide you with the templates. Like, the resources are there, and I'm always available to kind of talk about export in particular to your business if you're running into a challenge as you're writing. But it is very fast paced, and it's a lot of content. And that's why I was saying earlier, like, maybe, you know, again, to Patrick, we don't want people to not join, but it is a commitment to come and participate with your team, knowing that, you know, if the sales and marketing person's not participating in the training, you're going to be going back and going, hey, we need to write the sales and marketing section of our plan. We need the sales team's feedback. We need the marketing team's feedback. What does this look like for us in our business? How are we going to approach this new market we're engaging with? So it definitely is about committing your time and your resources and your sort of thinking power to export. And I think that's one of the best things about the TAP program, because it's a defined period of time and we pull you out of your normal office day. We used to take you face to face, like sort of out of your office completely and bring you to a location. Now we're doing it via Zoom. And so we are pulling you out of your normal office rhythm and having you focus on this problem of export for your business. And so when you put smart people in a room and give them the time to think and brainstorm and work their way through a challenge, what we're seeing is they step up and come up with a solution. And they come up with an export plan that they're able to execute. And the stats on TAP are clear. Companies that are participating in TAP a year after graduation, their exports have increased on average by 33%. That's huge, because even if your exports are 0 and they've gone up 30, that's huge. If your exports are already 50% of your business and they're going up 33%, that's huge. And in Nova Scotia, we don't need to have $20 billion gains. Those small gains of even something increasing by 5 or 10% really impact your bottom line, particularly if you're able to really maximize the efficiency of the business to help make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, I'll give folks kind of a last chance for questions, and then I think we'll probably wrap this up. So I'm going to say a few more words, and if anybody wants to write down any questions, this is your chance. I'll remind everyone that we did record this session. So I know there were some folks that came in late. If you would like to, you can go back to the beginning and watch this all over again and see Jessica's presentation and all of the slides as well. I would really encourage folks to take a look at this. This is an amazing program. And as Jessica said, you know, with an average sales increase of 33%, that is real money. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. Thank you everyone for attending our webinar today. Please head to halifaxchamber.com/tap or TAP to get started. We have a number of events coming up, so lots of exciting stuff. Next week we have an event we're calling Meet Your Next Premier, because there are 3 liberal, I guess they are liberal, leadership candidates running for the leadership of the Liberal Party in Nova Scotia. I think that election will take place sometime in February. But we are hosting the first debate next week. So if you have questions, bring them to the debate. You'll be able to do this virtually, as we aren't going to put a whole lot of people in the room, but you'll be able to see it all virtually. It'll be live. I'm not sure where it'll be live, but it's certainly live on Facebook Live. It may, in addition, be live on YouTube. We're also providing another free virtual event called the Road to Recovery Summit, with an all-star lineup of speakers, including John Stackhouse, who's an executive VP at RBC, and Andrew Feenstra, the owner of CycleSmith, a number of other local business folks who've pivoted and changed their businesses a little bit over the next little while, and that's on November 26th. So I would encourage you to sign up for that as well. And more importantly, if you're looking for in-person events, we are excited to host our Wonder Women Conference on December 4th, live and in person. And we will also have the annual State of the Municipality on December 10th with recently re-elected Mayor Mike Savage. And that will be in person as well. You should get your tickets early because things are selling out very quickly. And you can also head to halifaxchamber.com/events to see our full lineup. Again, this event today was recorded and be available to all attendees shortly on YouTube. I think we probably send you a link to that as well. So thanks very much, Jessica.
It was informative. And if anyone has any questions and wants to chat more deeply about how TAP will impact their business, both myself or the Halifax Chamber team, Chris Mann's working on this and a few others, are able to have a sort of a more in-depth conversation about what it would look like in your business and how TAP can benefit you specifically. So we're happy to have those conversations because I know it is a big commitment.
Right, absolutely. That's great. Thanks, Jessica. And thank you very much to everyone. And we'll see you all at TAP in a few months. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.